Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Jason Crow of Colorado, who serves on the House Armed Services and Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thank you so very much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kristen. Good to be with you.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. I do want to start with the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey. You have also been a target of this administration when they tried but failed to indict you over that video you made. You told troops that they can disobey orders that they deem to be illegal. What was your reaction to this latest indictment of James Comey?
This is another example of the Trump administration weaponizing Americans' Department of Justice against Donald Trump's political enemies, using their taxpayer dollars, people who are supposed to be focused in Washington and elsewhere on cybercrime, on elder fraud, on healthcare fraud, on organized crime, on violent crime around our country, are instead being used to settle scores by Donald Trump. Right? Americans should be upset about this more than anybody else, because it's their money. And it's their prosecutors who are being used and abused for purposes that Donald Trump sees fit in any given day.
Let's talk about the actual indictment. It says that these numbers, we'll put them up on the screen again, 8647, are a threat to take the life of the president. You see them right there in seashells. Legal scholars, though many of them, Congressman, say while the post might show poor judgment, it is protected political speech. How do you see this playing out? Do you have faith in the Justice Department?
Yeah, I think it was a bad idea, but is it a crime? Absolutely not a crime. I mean, I'll have to defer to Donald Trump. He says it's organized crime, slang, and criminal activity. I'll defer to him on that, and he's the expert on those issues. What I do know is that that term actually originated from 1930s diner slang when something was out of order or out of stock. So a lot of interpretations around it, but the larger issue remains the same, in that Donald Trump and his cronies and political hacks now at DOJ continue to do his bidding against political enemies. And it's the American people, it's the rule of law that suffers, right? He came after me back in February. He tried to indict me. He tried to send me to prison. You know, my high crime, telling service members to follow the law and obey the Constitution, right? So that's one of many examples of what this president is doing to erode our democracy and the rule of law in this country.
I want to play something that Republican Senator Thom Tillis said about the Comey indictment earlier today and get your reaction on the other side. Take a listen.
Hopefully there's more to it than just the picture in the sand. Otherwise, I just think it's another example of where we're going to regret this, because we're setting a fairly low bar. And political physics, like I've said around here for years, is what it is. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
What do you make of that equal and opposite reaction? Do you think that there could be such a reaction from Democrats if they were to take back the House, for example, or the White House?
Well, my first reaction is I really hope that more Republicans, other than those who are retiring, like Thom Tillis, stand up and push back on this. Like, we need more than just retiring Republicans to show courage and to help us fight for the rule of law and our democracy. I'm glad that he is, but he's in very, very small company right now. So that's number one. Number two is, no, we're not like them, right? His comment is, oh, we're going to come back and do the same thing. No, we're not. Because guess what? We believe in the rule of law. We believe in democracy. Does that mean that we won't pursue accountability? No, we will pursue accountability. We will pursue justice. We will do so according to the law and according to the way that our democracy says it should be done. We are not like them, and we will not act like them.
Okay, let me turn now to the fiery hearing. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth appearing before the House Armed Services Committee, which, again, you sit on. I want to play a little bit of what he had to say when he was asked, what's the biggest threat to Americans right now? Here's what he said.
The biggest challenge, the biggest adversary we face at this point are the reckless, feckless, and defeatist words of congressional Democrats and some Republicans. 2 months in, I remind you, 2 months in to a conflict, 2 months in on an existential fight for the safety of the American people, Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb.
And Congressman, I should clarify, that was actually his opening statement. You are, of course, a veteran. You served in the Iraq War. What was your reaction to the argument that Democrats are threatening the safety of the American people?
Well, it's horrible when you have the sitting Secretary of Defense coming before committee in his opening statements, before any word is said on either side of the aisle, and said that we're the enemy of this country, we're the adversary. That kind of tells you everything you need to say. I mean, he is politicizing the military. He is changing the very face of what we have long cherished as a nonpartisan melting pot of this nation. I served 3 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. When I think of America, I still think of the faces of those paratroopers that I served with who are black, white, Asian, Hispanic, straight, gay, Republican, Democrat. We came together and we fought together. We were brothers and sisters. And Pete Hegseth has turned his back on that very notion. But what's more is he's also saying that we don't have the right as members of Congress to actually question wars and conflict. We just get in line and just say it's okay to do whatever they want to do. That's not our role. That's not the Constitution. Again, I served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and to do that, our service members must know, they absolutely have to know, that members of Congress are sitting here in this Capitol asking tough questions, holding people to account, making sure that they're protected. That is our job. That is my commitment to our military men and women, and I will never back down from that.
Did you gain any more clarity on the goal of this war, Congressman, after this hearing today?
No, absolutely not. They still have not told us what their overall goal is. They have not told us what the off-ramp and the end game is, which is exactly why Americans don't support it. This is overwhelmingly unpopular. Donald Trump knows that. Pete Hegseth knows that. So they're just doubling and tripling down on it and frankly, lying to us about what is actually going on. America spent $5 to $8 trillion over the last 20 years, 7,000 American lives, our credibility. Tens of thousands of Americans came home bearing the invisible scars of this battle. The working class bore the burden of this, people that I was raised with and who I fought with. They have had enough. They've had enough of endless conflict in the Middle East, not being able to pay for their groceries, their health care, their housing, their rent and mortgage, while we spend tens of billions of dollars on endless conflict. I've had enough of it, and I'm not going to take their lies. I'm not going to sit there and just get in line, as Pete Hegseth wants me to do, and stop asking questions. I'm going to do everything possible to try to stop it.
I want to ask you about the assassination attempt that took place at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. You serve as the top Democrat in the bipartisan task force investigating the incident and the assassination attempt against President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. And after that incident, the head of Secret Service said that it would spark a, quote, paradigm shift in how it protects the president. Do you think there has, in fact, been a paradigm shift since Butler, Congressman?
I haven't seen that. As you mentioned, I helped lead that investigation because political violence is unacceptable. Doesn't matter where it comes from, doesn't matter what the reason is, doesn't matter who the target is. We must, as Americans, say never, never will we allow it, never is it justifiable. Right? And that's why I agreed to help lead this investigation. We did a comprehensive investigation over about 5 months, released a 180-page report with 37 recommendations for a very fundamental reform on how we protect the VIPs, the president, the vice president, members of Congress. What I want to know, my question is, how many of those 37 specific bipartisan reforms that every Democrat and Republican agreed to unanimously on that task force, how many of those have been implemented? Because we know what we need to do to raise the fences and protect people. The question is whether or not we have actually done that.
All right. Well, Congressman, we will continue to track that angle. Certainly. We really appreciate your joining us to discuss a range of topics. Congressman Jason Crow, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.